Hello to all the debt warriors listening, and welcome back to another episode of Millennial Debt Domination. I'm your host, Katie Fada. Social Security benefits affect millennials even if you don't think they do. This episode will be all about Social Security benefits for millennials. I'll be joined by David Vinokurov, who was previously the district manager at the Social Security Administration. I had so many questions about Social Security that we will be having a two-part Social Security episode. David will be joining me in the next episode as well to finish up our discussion on Social Security. In this episode, we'll be covering Social Security basics. How much should a millennial expect to receive from Social Security? Will there be any Social Security left when millennials reach retirement age? And much more. Now, let's get to part one of my interview with David. Hi, David. Thanks for being on the podcast today.
Thanks, Catherine. Good to be here.
So I feel like a lot of millennials might not understand Social Security. So I feel like this is a good topic for everyone to get to know more about Social Security benefits. So I guess to start off, what is Social Security?
So, great question. So, Social Security is a social insurance program. So, if you think back to your history lessons, it was signed into law in August of 1935 by Franklin D. Roosevelt. And basically, it's a contract between generations. It's a pay-as-you-go system. So people that are working today, they're basically financing the program for their parents and their grandparents. And in a nutshell, that's basically what Social Security is about.
Okay, yeah. I feel like when a lot of people hear Social Security, they automatically just think of it for old people, as if that makes sense, older people. So I think that's a good breakdown of it. And it's been around for quite a while at this point.
It's 80. It actually turned 85 on August 14th,
Oh, wow.
2020. So
Oh,
85 years. Yep.
so what qualifies a person to collect Social Security?
So great question. Another great question. So basically, I guess when you're asking me that, we're talking about retirement, because we'll get into some of the other benefits later on, because there are a myriad of benefits. So for retirement purposes, a person can qualify as early as age 62 and as late as age 70. In order to qualify for Social Security retirement, you need to have put into the system or worked under the Social Security system. And that means quarters of coverage. Okay, so what does that mean? What is a quarter of coverage? So in 2019, a quarter of coverage means you have earned gross income, and this is income from active employment. So working, modeling, writing blogs, doing podcasts, anything of active employment is $1,410. In 2021, that's going up to 1470. So for 2020, it's 1410. For 2021, one quarter of coverage is 1470. You can earn a maximum of 4 quarters per year. Okay, so 4 quarters per year or 5640. And those quarters can be either earned, it doesn't matter when they're earned in the year. They can be earned early in the year or they can be earned throughout the year. As long as you earn a minimum of 5640 for the year, you've earned those 4 quarters. You need a minimum of 40 quarters to qualify for retirement benefits.
Okay. Got it. Okay. So, on average, how much is a person paying towards Social Security per paycheck? Because I think some people necessarily don't look at the breakdown on their paycheck. So,
yeah, a lot of people don't. And usually when millennials or anybody else starts working, they look at their paycheck and they go like, who is this FICA person that I'm paying all this money to? Like, wow, this FICA really is taking a lot of my money out. Well, FICA is actually, that's what's basically financing Social Security program and system. So so for FICA, you're paying 7.65% of your paycheck, of your gross pay, every pay period, whatever, if you get paid weekly, bi-weekly, whatever it is. Again, it's from earned income. It has to be earned income. And it's of that 7.65%, 6.2 goes towards Social Security, and 1.45 goes to Medicare. And that's how that Social Security program is financed. So the Social Security is taxed up until $137,700.
Okay.
Okay, that's the in 2020. In 2021, that's going up to 142,800. So you're paying 7.65% on earnings up until 137,700 in 2020.
So I know kind of before we talked about you could start collecting social security at the age of 62. So is everybody eligible to receive social security when they hit that age?
Yeah, another great question. So, yeah, basically, as long, remember we spoke
Mhm.
previously about quarters of coverage.
Yeah.
So, as long as a person has a minimum of 10 years of 40 quarters, they can be eligible to collect benefits as early as age 62 or as late as age 70. Now, the
Okay.
full retirement age for that's when you get to collect 100% of your benefits is
Mhm.
generally for millennials or anybody born after 1960 is 67. Age
Okay.
67 is when you can collect. So yes, anybody that has a minimum of 10 years worth of work under the Social Security system can collect as early as age 62.
And then what factors determine how much social security you will receive?
Okay, yeah. So
Mm.
another good question. Another good question. So there are a lot of factors that determine how much you're going to receive. Social Security basically is calculated based on your best 35 years. So there's a lot of myths and misunderstandings going
Mm.
around as to how it's calculated, but it's calculated based on a lifetime, your best 35 years. They're not consecutive years, they're not first years, they're not last years. It's whatever your best 35 years in your entire working career. So since you had that paper route or those babysitting jobs or whatever, camp counselor, all the way up to your retirement, your best 35 years gets calculated, and there's a formula that goes into this, and it basically, the more you put into the system, the higher amount will be.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. So it's true that 51% of millennials expect no benefits from Social Security when they retire. What's the reason many millennials think this? I'm definitely a part of one of those millennials because I've heard it all the time. So why do we all think this so much?
Yeah, so that's you think that much because you're probably, and usually gets brought up around election time
Hmm.
and stuff, and it's been somewhat of a hot potato,
Hmm.
the Social Security system, or a third rail, as they call it. It's completely myth, and
Oh, okay.
it's completely untrue. So Social Security, as I mentioned before, has been around for 85 years,
Mm.
and it's going to be around for the next 85 years.
Okay.
Social Security is not going broke.
Mhm.
In fact, at the end of 2019, they had a 2.9 trillion with a T
Oh, okay.
budget surplus. So they are not going broke. They are not going broke. Having said that, because of the way it's structured, and because, unfortunately, of the pandemic, by 2035, Social Security will only be able to pay about 79 cents on the dollar. So you're talking 21% cut from the current benefits.
Okay.
That is truth. That is not a myth. That is a fact. So, but this has been, these crises or issues have been around before, and Congress has managed to solve them, to fully solve them, and make, in fact, there were surpluses up until 2019.
Okay. So it will be around, but will we be getting less from it or no?
Well, as I mentioned, if nothing's done,
Uh-huh.
there could be a 21% cut. In
Uh-huh.
my experience with the Social Security Administration, and I was administrator for them for 27 years,
Mm-hmm.
something will be done and it
Okay.
will be made whole. So you can definitely expect Social Security, whether it's a millennial or your kids or your grandkids, in fact, will receive these wonderful benefits.
Yeah, that's definitely a myth I hear a lot, even from people my parents' age. They're saying, "Oh, we won't even get it," but that's good to clarify that we will get it.
You will, and you know what, Catherine? Your
Uh-huh.
grandparents probably had the same thought process. That, oh, it's never going
Yeah.
to be there. Why am I even paying into this system?
Uh-huh.
Well, little did they realize they came to collect, and I'm sure benefited by this wonderful program. Not only your great grandparents, your grandparents, anybody since 1935 that's paid into the system has more than benefited by it.
Yeah, definitely. So I know we kind of talked about it's your best 35 years on how much you'll receive for Social Security, but how much can a millennial expect to receive from Social Security? It will still follow that same guideline?
Yeah, yeah, another great question. So
Mhm.
generally, Social Security for an average worker will replace around 40% of their pre-retirement income.
Okay.
Okay, so roughly 40% of the pre-retirement income. So if you're talking an average person making, let's say, 50,000, can expect around 30, a little less than that, in Social Security benefits. A person that's a high earner can probably expect to replace about 20 to 30% of their pre-retirement income.
Okay.
And a low earner can expect to replace probably 60% of their pre-retirement income. So it's a regressive. It's tilted towards lower earners to give them a better retirement opportunities and keep really millions of seniors out of poverty.
Okay. Right. And then how should Social Security factor into your retirement plan?
Oh, it's critical.
Mhm.
I have read that Social Security from financial advisors and financial industry, Social Security can be um, kind of counted as part of your retirement portfolio. You can look at it as about a $500,000 annuity.
Okay.
Okay, so if you were to have a $500,000 in an annuity, how much would it pay? And this is what Social Security is like. It's an incredible asset that we have, and it's the only asset that um, provides us with a guaranteed lifetime income to keep up with the inflation. That's the only one. It's not market based. It's not interest based. It's nothing based. It's a guaranteed contract between generations, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah. So, is Social Security a replacement for retirement? A replacement for saving for retirement?
Right, right. No, no,
Yeah.
not at all. It was never even in 1935 when FDR signed the bill into law on August 14th, it was always meant to be a part of a bigger plan, a part of a full retirement financial plan that encompasses, saving, investing, and other vehicles. People had pension plans before. Now most people don't, but certainly saving, investing, and Social Security is the way to go in terms of having a plan. So Social Security is definitely not a replacement for saving or investing.
Yeah, and even back then, if it wasn't supposed to be a replacement, it definitely shouldn't be now because people are definitely living longer now too than they were back then. So then they'll need to.
Absolutely. The average age back then was around 65. The
Mm,
average age today is about 83.8. And for
mhm.
women, it's even more. So it's even more critical for women to save and invest for the future.
Yeah. So I know now we're kind of talking about other ways to save for retirement. So what are some other ways millennials can save for the retirement without relying solely on their Social Security?
Okay, yeah. So another great question. So in addition to Social Security, you definitely want to take advantage of your 401ks
Mhm.
or 401k Roths if you have those available through your job. You want to make sure that you get at least a minimum of your matching from your company. Most companies will match up to first 3 to 6% of what you put in. Most financial advisors will advise that you should put in between at least 10 to 15% of your pre-retirement income into these vehicles, if not more. Okay, so definitely, if you can do more, and the earlier you start, really, the better off you're going to be. In addition, IRAs and Roth IRAs, another wonderful, wonderful vehicle to save for your retirement, for the future you. It's really investment in you. So definitely take advantage of those Roth IRAs. And the third one is really taxable investments in growth type of vehicles. So while saving money is a wonderful start, you really need to educate yourself in terms of where to place those monies. And millennials especially, you have the leverage of years. Okay, so you have maybe 30, 40
Mhm.
years ahead of you. You really want to take advantage while you're in your early 20s, throughout 20s and into early 30s, putting in as much money into these 401k, IRA, and taxable investment vehicles as you can to save for your future.
Yeah, that's such a great point to bring up that I always say is like now is the perfect time in your 20s to be saving for retirement. But a lot of people my age in their mid 20s think, why do I need to start saving for retirement? But this is the perfect time to do it.
Catherine, absolutely. I've read
Yeah.
somewhere one of the financial advisors did a calculation, and they said that for every dollar that a 20-year-old saves, could turn potentially with a modest 6 to 7% growth rate into $88 by age 65. So
Oh.
you're talking 88 turning $1 into
Mm-hmm.
$88 just by getting 6 to 7% somewhere. So it's an incredible leverage that you have is the years ahead of you.
Yeah. And, even people my age, I'm the youngest of the millennials, and generations even behind us, they definitely have even less expenses to be paying for. They probably don't have a mortgage or maybe even not even have rent. They might still have a home. So take that money now and put it towards your retirement.
Absolutely. Put it towards those vehicles that we just spoke about, 401ks, IRAs, and taxable. And you can really take advantage of your of IRAs,
Hmm.
with your first babysitting job or your
Right.
camp counselor job or whatever, walk dog walk dogging walking your dog
Yeah.
job, anything of that nature. You know what? Ask your parents, maybe they'll match it for you.
Hmm.
Maybe they'll match it if you put in a certain amount up to your gross income. You can put away up to $6,000 into your IRA for 2020. So it's a great way to invest in yourself.
Yeah. And even speaking of parents, some later millennials are in their later 30s and they have kids. So something for them, they might want to set up a retirement fund for their kid as well as a college fund as well. Both of them are just as important. If they have the money to.
Absolutely. You know what? If you can't look into, 529 plans,
Yes.
it's a wonderful, wonderful vehicle, another growth vehicle that you can save money for your children. And if millennials have young kids, babies,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever, put away a few dollars every month into that fund. It's amazing how much it'll grow in 18 years. You have the time, leverage that time. That's the greatest thing ever is the time is in your hands.
Yeah, I have some more podcast episodes and a bunch of information on the website about all of this, about more retirement plans. So I will put that in the description of this podcast as well. So thank you for being here today and answering all the questions about Social Security. We still have more to come, so we're definitely going to have you back on. And maybe the next episode we could do a part two of the Social Security recording.
Catherine, thank you so much. Thank you to you, Navicor, for having me on, and hopefully we shed some light on the Social Security benefits for millennials.
Yeah, so everyone stay tuned for a second part of this Social Security benefits episode. I feel as if David and I only scratched the surface on Social Security benefits, so I'm glad he'll be joining me in the next episode of Millennial Debt Domination. For all millennials who have doubts, there will be Social Security when you retire. It's not uncommon to think this, especially when we hear it all the time from our parents and the media. As David says, Social Security has been around for 85 years this year, and it's a system that works. It's important to note that you shouldn't rely on Social Security for retirement. I know I've talked about the importance of saving for retirement in other podcast episodes, but it's an important financial point to make. By saving for retirement, you're making a financial investment in your future self. You don't want to work forever, and you can't solely retire on just Social Security. As David said, saving for your retirement while in your mid-20s will significantly impact your retirement savings. Save now while you might not have as many financial burdens. That wraps up the first part of our Social Security for Millennials episode. Don't forget to tune into our next episode airing in 2 weeks, where I'll be joined by David again, and we'll be finishing up our Social Security conversation. Also, please subscribe to our podcast wherever you're currently listening, and if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review us there. Talk to you next time, Millennials, Gen Zers, and everyone else listening. Bye.